So in this next video, I'd like to just finish up our login for our database application. So let's get started. So this is where we're up to. We're basically able to connect into our database and click login, and it just does a dump. We don't want that. That's not what we want. We don't want to dump and show things like that. So what I'll do is we'll just ignore that, but really I should hide that. Yeah, let's hide it. So I'll just click on the data grid view, and we'll just hide it for now. Visible equals false. We don't want that there, but we still want it there because we're going to use it for other purposes. So we'll visible equals false, and we'll just kind of do that. And we just double click on our login button. And what we want to do is we want to basically authenticate. We want to check if the user is there. If hem, right now the default is hem and the password is pass. And we just want to check if the user is there, right? So what we need to do is we need to do a select. So what we could do is we could kind of one-shot it. We can go select. We can select login ID, because I guess people can always find that out. We'll select login ID, and a command that we're going to use to check if a particular entry exists is the where, the SQL where. So if you go into w3schools.com/SQL, you can click on where, and this where clause allows us to like an if statement, almost like a search if statement. So select a particular column from a table and check if there's this item that exists in that column. And you're only allowed to use where once in this. So if you want to do multiple wheres, you got to use ands, ors, right? Ands and ors. So let's do that. All right, so pull that up. So we'll connect that, and then we'll go where. We'll write the word where. And you notice that SQL starts to get pretty long, right? So that's why they write it in like kind of in an enter form here. But since I'm putting a string into this command text, I won't play around with it yet until it gets too long. And so we'll go where login ID equals to right? And what I actually want to write here, I'll just show you, is I want to write single quotation hem single quotation, right? But I don't want to hard code hem into there, because then anyone can just log in as hem. I want this thing to be whatever's in here. So I need to grab it from the text box. So in place of this, I need to put it into a text box, right? So notice there's a quotation because it's a string. It's looking for a string. So you need to put these single quotes in, right? So what we do is we can go, all right, so this is complicated. So try to bear with me. You put a double quote. You put a single quote then a double quote to kind of end this. Then you go plus txt username, and this may take a bit of getting used to, .text, and then plus, and then open quote again, and then you have this little, you basically have this thing in these two quotes. So these two quotes is the thing that the Visual Basics use. This little quote here is the thing that the SQL server will look at. But we don't want these spaces, so we're going to delete that. All right. So this thing will look like, just to show you, will look like this to the actual server. Will look like that. Right? And if I put a different thing in, if whatever's in here is something else, like I don't know, happy, then you'll see happy in there. And then you can see that these quotations that the SQL server needs is still there. All right. Now, So we'll have a login ID there. Okay. So what I did is I select this, and sure enough, if I do the fill, I should get the login ID, right? A login ID there. And so so really I could authenticate, pretty loosely here by going if data.tables 0.rows rows.count is greater than 0, meaning it exists, right? I know that this person exists, and if then I can go, well, the login exists. I can go, I can message box login exists. Now I'm not going to authenticate them, but I can tell them at least that login exists. And if that's not true, then user doesn't exist. Now in the real world, you would never do this. You would never tell someone when they're trying to log in that a user exists or not. You don't want a hacker to know that. But this is just for feedback purposes. User does not exist. Login does not exist. Doesn't exist. Right, let's try that. So first we'll try it with hem. Not going to exist. And of course it crashes here because it doesn't have password. I'm only grabbing login, so it doesn't know password exists. So I'll just delete that. But now if I delete hem and I just put some random, put some random login user, right, it shouldn't work. User doesn't exist, because what happens is it tries to pull that login, and then when it fills it, it's going to be empty. There's going to be no rows in there because it couldn't find that. And so I'm just checking if rows is greater than, if it's not equal to, if it's not greater than 0, meaning there's 0, then it doesn't exist, right? All right, so that's pretty much how you could look for one thing. But we don't want to look for one thing. We actually want to look for more than one thing. We want to also make sure the password's the same. So how do we add an extra check? After the where, and you're checking for login, all right, you go space over here, you do an or, right? So I'll just show you exactly what we want to write. And we need to feed this into our software, right? I'll just put this bracket in here. I'll just show you. So let's say we had hem here. And then we go or, and password, capital password equals to pass. That's kind of what we want. I'm really annoyed with, just do that. So we want select login from details where ID equals hem and password equals pass. And we want to replace this pass with txt password.text. And we want an and in the middle there. So after this little thing, we want an and, right? Then we want password equals. So we basically want this, right? This. So password equals. Then we want this little thing here. And then we add txt password.text. And then finally, which is this part of it. And then finally I need to add this little thing here. So I just go plus quotation, double quotes, and inside the 2 double quotes put a single quote, because we want that little thing right there, and I don't need this anymore. But you know what, I would put this like, let's make it a comment example. We want this. There you go. And if either of these is false, then you'd get 0 entries and you can't authenticate. So now we can actually change this to not only is a login exist, we can go authenticated, authenticate, authenticated. We got access allowed. Now we just go access allowed. And then over here we'll go access denied. And then you can so check your credentials. Is that how you spell credentials? I can't. Credentials. Alright, so doesn't matter. Let's try that. Alright, so over here, hem pass, click on it, access allowed. Now I'll just stuff it up. Access denied, stuff that one up. Access denied. So you can see you've got to have this both the same for it to work. And one last thing, because we haven't really finished. Firstly, you know, password shouldn't be a text. You shouldn't show people this, right? This shouldn't be shown like that. Secondly, you shouldn't even save your passwords in your data table as these things. They should be hashes of some sort, some strong hash, right? So that's obviously a video for another time because we're already on, you know, nearly 12 minutes there. Anyway, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.